goodness.
Injury. So the Indiana Fever did report tonight that Sophie Cunningham will be out for the remainder of the season with
Sophie Cunningham's season just ended, and it snapped in a way that threatened to rewrite her entire career timeline. Now, an unexpected recovery update is forcing the league to pay attention once again. When Sophie Cunningham went down with an MCL tear, the moment felt heavier than just another injury report. It wasn't a routine setback, and it wasn't happening at a convenient time. It landed at a crossroads in her career when momentum mattered, visibility mattered, and every healthy game could have shaped her future. For the Indiana Fever, it was a blow. For Cunningham herself, it was a pause that carried uncomfortable questions.
And welcome back to Mohegan Sun Arena. Scary moment as we went to commercial.
An MCL tear is deceptive. Everybody is aware of this, and it does not always look dramatic in the moment, but its consequences can linger quietly, undermining explosiveness, lateral movement, and confidence long after the swelling fades. For a guard whose game relies on toughness, physicality, and fearless contact, the injury hit directly at the core of her identity as a player. Now let's take a trip to the 2025 season, which was already unstable for Indiana. Injuries stacked up, rotation shifted constantly, and chemistry never had the chance to fully settle, right? Cunningham's absence amplified that instability. She was not just another body in the lineup, she was one of the emotional stabilizers on the floor, the kind of veteran who absorbs pressure and redirects confusion. Losing her early quietly totally changed the rhythm of the team.
So Sophie Cunningham hit the floor hard, and she is being helped off the floor, heading back to the locker room. This is the play that just occurred.
Looks like she tries to slide over right there, and Hartley just...
At first, updates were minimal. Rehab photos were scarce. The silence made fans uneasy. In a league where careers can pivot quickly, prolonged quiet often triggers speculation, and Cunningham was no exception. Questions began circulating about whether she would rush back, shut it down completely, or reconsider her future altogether. Then came the shift, but hold on for it because it'll blow you out. Smash that subscribe and like button before we continue, my friends.
kind of falls and makes collision with that lower leg. You see her immediately grab it. And she went down hard and was clearly in a lot of pain. Cunningham, a big...
Instead of formal press releases or carefully curated training montages, Cunningham's recovery began surfacing organically through social media. Not from her directly at first, but through friends. Casual clips, laughter, movement that did not look tentative or cautious. It was subtle, but it was intentional. One viral TikTok in particular changed the tone of the conversation. Cunningham was seen hopping, dancing, and moving with a confidence that did not align with someone still battling instability in their knee. It wasn't staged like a comeback video. That is what made it shocking. It looked normal, almost too normal. Her friend Maggie's comment that Sophie's knee was recovering wonderfully landed harder than any medical update could. In the WNBA world, where teams guard injury timelines carefully, that offhand reassurance felt like a crack in the curtain. Fans immediately noticed how fluid her movement looked, how natural her balance appeared, and how little hesitation there was in her steps.
Leader for Connecticut in terms of keeping everybody together, being that fire breather.
Behind the scenes, reports began to surface that her rehab had been aggressive but calculated. Treadmill sessions, sports-specific drills, strength work designed not just to heal, but to restore trust in the joint. This was not a passive recovery. It was a statement. What made this even more dramatic was the timing. Cunningham is entering free agency. Every rep matters now. Every sign of health is a signal to front offices watching quietly. An injury can erase leverage overnight, and Cunningham knows that better than most veterans in the league. Old T adds context here. Earlier in her career, Cunningham was often undervalued statistically despite her impact. She was never marketed as the face of a franchise, yet coaches consistently leaned on her in critical moments. That disconnect between perception and value followed her for years. The injury threatened to widen that gap even further. Instead of letting that narrative swallow her, Cunningham flipped the script. Her recovery became visible but not desperate, confident but not loud. That balance matters in a league where image can influence opportunity just as much as box scores. But hold on, there is also speculation that her off-season visibility is intentional positioning. Teams are not just evaluating her knee, they are evaluating her mindset. Cunningham's presence online suggests someone who believes she is coming back, not someone testing the waters of retirement or transition.
Podcast interview, as Sophie did mention, she talked about Caitlin Clark briefly and her recovery, and she basically just said, like, it is a day-to-day thing. Caitlin doesn't even know when she will be back, so she didn't really give any more information.
Another layer of intrigue is her experience with the fever alongside Caitlin Clark. Cunningham has spoken before about what she learned during that season, and insiders have hinted that the environment sharpened her competitive edge rather than overwhelming it. Being around a high-pressure spotlight showed her what sustained attention feels like and how quickly narratives form. That experience may have influenced how she is handling this injury publicly. She is no longer invisible. She knows eyes are on hers, and she is choosing what they see. There is also a quiet financial angle. As an unrestricted free agent, Cunningham's medical evaluations will be scrutinized intensely. Teams will want reassurance not just of healing, but of durability. By showing herself moving freely months ahead of schedule, she is subtly countering any doubts before they are voiced. This is where the tea gets interesting. Some league insiders believe Cunningham could be positioning herself for a short-term prove-it deals rather than chasing long-term security immediately. A healthy return season could reset her market entirely. That strategy carries risk, but it also carries upside for a player confident in her body and her role. Her hometown support adds another emotional layer. Cunningham recently thanked her community for backing her personal projects, a reminder that her identity extends beyond basketball, that grounding matters during rehab. Athletes who lose themselves in injury often struggle to return fully. Cunningham appears anchored. What makes her situation compelling is not just that she is recovering, but how she is recovering. There is no visible fear, no guarded movement, no tentative body language. That psychological component is often harder to restore than the ligament itself. The Fever, meanwhile, are watching closely. While nothing is guaranteed, a healthy Cunningham adds veteran stability to a young roster still finding its voice. Her absence last season exposed how thin that leadership layer can become under pressure. Speculation has also emerged about whether other teams might view her as a plug-and-play solution for playoff aspirations. A recovered Cunningham brings toughness, experience, and defensive versatility. Those traits become more valuable as the league grows younger and faster. Old whispers from previous seasons suggested Cunningham was often asked to sacrifice statistically for the sake of team balance. A return from injury could mark a subtle shift in how she prioritizes her own game. Players coming off major setbacks sometimes play with sharper clarity about their worth. The shock factor here is not just that she is back on her feet, it is how quickly the narrative flipped from concern to curiosity, from will she return to how ready will she be. That swing does not happen without evidence. Cunningham's journey also highlights a broader truth about the WNBA. Injury recoveries are rarely linear, and public perception often lags behind reality. Her approach has collapsed that gap by letting movement speak louder than statements. As 2026 approaches, her name is being watched again, which alone is a victory after a season-ending injury. This comeback is not being framed as heroic or tragic, it is being framed as inevitable, and that tone shift may be the most powerful update of all. Sophie Cunningham's injury sharpened her own story, and now the league has to decide if it's ready for her return. So let us know your views in the comments below.